Welcome to The Success Rate. I'm Thuli Magubane, where we talk about people's journey to success. As our byline says, there's no such thing as an overnight success. We usually have guests from business, entertainment. Today, we are joined by a man who captures those stories, and he uses film to tell his story. Joining us today is world-renowned photographer, Mr. Siphiwe Mhlambi. Siphiwe, welcome. I should say award-winning photographer.
Thank you. Thanks for the invite.
Give you props.
Thank you very much. Good to be here.
It's a pleasure having you. So just to start us off, if you had to be an Olympic athlete, what sport would you be in it for and why? Or what sport would you choose?
Wow. Will probably be a long distance runner. Because I did that actually when I was at high school.
Yeah.
And I love the endurance on it. Because you train your body to hold that stamina for so long.
Yes.
So everything that I do is got that
Longevity.
pace, longevity, and I'm not a sprinter. I don't know how to do that. I would love to do things and take time in doing them.
Yeah. So like the Kenyans.
Absolutely. Correct.
So you'd be that.
Yeah.
So I mean, photographer. You're a first photographer that we've interviewed, and I think it's a career that a lot of people may not necessarily, want to choose as their first career. But I believe with you, photography found you.
Yeah.
You were young, in a desperate situation, and you said that the camera saved you. Tell us how. Yeah?
Camera saved me in many ways. I didn't know a whole lot of things about myself and also about where I was, what I was doing there.
Yeah.
I found myself in a very compromising space where I was just growing up as like any other child, very young though. But there were no parents though. It was just strangers around you, a lot of people.
Yeah.
And even when we sleep, there were probably about 10, between 8 and 10 people that we sleep together with. But I didn't know who they were. With the sheepskin.
Yeah.
Like, what do you call that thing? Kasotho.
Yeah.
Under the kitchen table. And along those, there's some that will, it's a very hard thing. And sometimes there's some that pee.
Oof.
And then and then the skin gets softer.
Yes.
And then it's just an uncomfortable environment, And in the morning it's taken out, it's dried, It's the same cycle every day. During the day you go, you sell coal. I used to sell coal, firewood, or do people's gardens, or sometimes work with the old men's. I used to work at a school called Lekang, primary, as a gardener there.
Okay.
So we'd accompany him there. But now there's people in the community that used to observe the way I was growing up, because it was not normal. Some people just laughed it off and think, it's not my problem, But there's one particular person that took interest in that environment that was not suitable for a child to grow that way. And then he got an opportunity to come to the very same house with the census, the very first census when they were counting people. I think it was around 1980 or so. So in that questionnaire that she had, there were questions that were not answered that pertaining me and my younger brother.
Yes.
So, and then she went back and asked, but nothing is answered about these two boys. And that's when she was told, nah, these kids don't belong here. Somebody dropped them off, and then he took off. So we don't have the paperwork, their birth certificate, green card, whatever it is. So we can't even take them to school. So we don't know what to do. But the thing is, what they did there, we used to work, and then, But now the teacher suggested that she take us to her school where she works. And she will explain to the headmaster that, we have a situation here.
Yeah, in
we
a
have
situation,
to take, we have to take these kids because they're growing. I'm now at that time, I'm 13 years old, So they agreed, and it was around June. So we were enrolled around that time. But she wanted to adopt us, but she did not have means. But she gave me a camera. And it was a small Spotmatic camera called Kodak 110.
Yes.
Took me 2 years to really figure it out because at the time I couldn't read or write. But eventually then it made a change. That's how the camera changed my life. Otherwise, I'll still be trapped there.
And I mean, if you think about it, without that camera, who knows where your life might have ended up. And I really believe that with people, sometimes our paths, our calling, it finds us.
Oh, yeah.
We may be lost, and there's that one individual that comes in and changes the direction that your path will follow. And I think we shared the story about Hugh Masekela, how getting the trumpet
Yes.
as well changed
Same
the trajectory
story,
of his life.
Exactly. Through Father Trevor Huddleston.
Yes, yeah.
And such more. I don't know what it is. This is within the black community. But our talents are not what we study for or it's something that comes to you in a very unique place or unique way, similar to Hugh Masekela. And even people like Richard Maponya, somebody who used to sell malamogodu, on a bicycle and end up owning those businesses that he had.
Yes, yeah.
But everything happened in that way. But for me, when it happened, I did not interrogate and I did not even question it. I was late for school, but I still went to school. But the camera was by my side.
Yeah.
And the changes that came into my life, they came through that camera.
Yeah.
And I could not ignore that. But I decided this is one thing that is going to be by my side throughout my life.
So your camera became your friend, it became your mentor, it became your provider.
Yes.
Became your everything. So you started, taking pictures and obviously being a turbulent time in South Africa's history. You were in Soweto and you were able to take pictures of some really pertinent moments. Maybe take us through some of those and how it changed you as a young person, capturing some really brutal times in South Africa.
And that's why when you do something, you have to, I spoke of endurance earlier on, because you have to acclimatize to the environment that you are in so that you are able to execute the task at hand.
Yes.
So in this case, camera was not an easy, because it gets you into trouble a lot when you photograph a wrong person. Sometimes it elevates you, people like you because you take nice photos. But in this case, I just had that camera and I used it at school. And I remember I couldn't even afford to buy a film. So the teacher that got me to school, and they allowed me to sell sweets in a classroom. So I remember I had 7 cents and that I used to buy hamburgers. I don't know if those are still around.
But I remember those sweets, yes.
Yeah, it used to be my hamburgers and I'll break them down and sell them 2 cents each in a class. And I was allowed to do that in a classroom. So I sold those and I could buy a film. But out of that film, nothing came out of it because I didn't know what I was doing. But perseverance, because it was the only thing that I could do out of my own willingness.
Yes,
It's not forced on me. I'm not sent to go do somebody's garden, or I'm not sent to go sell coal, or whatever it is. This is one thing that I can do out of my own. So I was patient with developing it. And as I went along, started buying films, I got popular at school because I used to take pictures of all the events, the graduations, sports activities. Then I became just, it almost like camera was larger than life in my world. And I even ran away from the home where I was. I ran away. I ended up being adopted by my school teacher, Miss Mbele, at Javelin Technical.
Yeah.
And then things just opened. And even, as you said, in that turbulent time, there was street fights, okapi fights. I used to document those. I used to go to the hostels, when the hostels were still Kama, watch Zulu dancing and go to Jabulani Amphitheater. go watch Buko Rimoraba, Steve Kekana, Mparanyani, all of those. But I was seeing my work as, and it was funny things that I was not even commissioned by people to do some of those things. Although
It was out of curiosity.
it was out of curiosity. I was just documenting, and nobody even gave me that brief.
Yeah.
But I remember paging through Drum Magazine and seeing people like Peter Makubane, Yagan Shagabeg,
Yes.
Bob
Yeah.
Kosani, Jutangwenya's names. But the elevation was just, if these people can do this thing that they are doing,
Yeah.
I
That you
can
could
also
do it.
do
Yeah.
it in the space where I was, as versatile as it was. But I documented all of that. And then as it go further, and then there was now ANC and Inkatha fights. And also I did that. And then people started saying, sell this work, because if you take pictures and then you keep them for yourself.
Yes. So tell us about that. That was going to be my next question.
Yeah.
So you sold your first photo to a newspaper. I think it was the Sowetan.
Yeah, just Sowetan.
So tell us that moment when someone was actually willing to pay you good money and have your picture published.
I was shocked. You know, the thing is, when it happened, I did not know the significance of the image, though, at the time.
Yes.
But somebody suggested that you sell it to, because I went and I developed the film, and not the same film, but the other films that I had about 2-3 roles.
Okay.
But one of them, I could only afford to do one at the time. So when did I develop, it showed me all the images that I did. And this person suggested that you go to Sowetan. I didn't even know where Sowetan was.
Yes.
I was told it was somewhere in Industria. I took a taxi and a train. I got there. I found a gentleman called Robert Magwaza, and I explained to him. He said, okay, let me take the film to the dark room and see what you have. He came back and he had a contact sheet, you know.
Yes.
And then we went to that light box and he was circling some images with a China mark. But I could see excitement in his face. But I didn't understand, you know, what was, you know. He was getting excited. He was calling colleagues, you know, around the light box. Hey, see, hey, look at this, look at that. And somebody was saying to him, that's our first page tomorrow.
Wow.
That's our cover. That's our front page. And the excitement, I also get excited, but I need them to explain what is it that they see. And they say, buy the paper tomorrow morning. You will see. And I did. I bought Sowetan tomorrow. There it was. It was a burning bus,
Yes.
Padco bus.
Ah.
And I was, okay, if this is what I can do, and my name was in there, the byline was in there, Siphiwe Mhlambi, I felt almost like my world has just changed around from where I was to what I'm witnessing now. And I was promised a check that was going to come, but you must bring all your work all the time. When you have something nice, bring it over.
Yes.
And that's what happened. I never looked back from there.
And that started the journey.
Oh, it started the journey. It started so well because other things started happening. So I was so frequent at Sowetan, and then it didn't look good on other people that were staffers there because it was almost intimidating that this young
They
guys,
work there and their pictures are not being published. Yeah.
You know, every time when I'm at Sowetan, definitely my image is going to be published. So, but I didn't know how to develop that film. So you'll give it to a darkroom technician. If a darkroom technician is not there, whoever is in a darkroom, if you're doing your work and they say, add this one on your reel. So I remember this one important job that I had. It was an Okapi fight, you know, a street fight. And the guys were playing dice. I think one of them didn't want to accept that he was...
He lost.
Yeah, he lost. So he started fighting with the guys. So I took pictures of those. And I took them to Sowetan again. And then I was excited. I was telling Robert Magwaza what I have there. So he was already counting on it.
Yes, yeah.
And when the film came, it was clean. The whole strip was clean.
Yeah.
And he said, I know what happened there. Somebody did not like your work. Somebody put a fixer instead of a developer. Because if the work was bad, you'll still have frames that are okay. Some frames will be, you know. But he says, it means...
The fact that it came out blank.
Yeah, some guys don't like you being here. So what I'm going to do now is that I'm going to teach you how to develop film. So whenever you come here, I'll give you your own developer, fixer, paper, and then you do that. And then you buy a locker, you keep it there. Yeah.
And of course, photography opened a lot of doors for you. So tell us about the first international trip that you took, a work assignment, or internationally.
Yeah, it took me a while until I could fly on an aeroplane. I remember after Sowetan, I started freelancing for everybody. The Star, Sunday Times,
Yes.
New Nation, Mail and Guardian, all of those. And then then I was on a retainer with City Press. And then from that City Press, and same thing happened. And I remember the late Charles Mokhale wrote me a recommendation letter to say, your work does not belong here. You know, you need to be in places that will appreciate your work. So I went to Drum Magazine. When I got to Drum Magazine, I found there Bani Cohen and Pesi Tukwana, Bumidisent Mseleku, and
Yes.
Mrs. Doris Tolle. You know, I was welcomed very nicely there. And then I ended up doing work for True Love magazine as well.
Yes,
True
yeah.
Love was a very nice upmarket glossy magazine, you know. And I remember around that time, this is when we gained democracy after 1990. I think it was 91, where our players, soccer players, were allowed to play overseas. We had Bufil Masinga in Bari, Shoes in Italy, I think.
Guys.
Yeah, so those players, and then there was an assignment that we should follow them in the countries where they work, where they play.
Yeah.
We went specifically to Leeds when Lucas Radebe was playing for Leeds United.
Yes.
So we spent about a week there with him, training at home and all of those, you know, signing T-shirts and all of that stuff. That was my first trip overseas through, you know, True Love
True
magazine.
Love, yeah.
And obviously there were a whole lot of others, you know, with the Bazaruto. True Love had a lot of projects, you know. They would have the Pride of the Year, you know, they'll have the beauty in a day off, you know, like you'd visit someone like Khalima Motlanthe, you know, all of those. But those are the projects that started opening my eyes and seeing how big photography was.
Yes.
And obviously working for magazines, the style of work is different from the newspaper. Your newspaper is just your camera and your lens, a flashlight, and that's
yeah.
it. As soon as I go to magazines, I mean, this is like 1991 when I was exposed to lighting, medium format cameras, Polaroid bags, editing on a computer and all of that. So I carried on doing that until I resigned in 1998 because I was making so much money
Yeah.
that I felt,
Why was it a bad thing?
Well,
You decided to
I had
resign.
clients.
Not many people say, you're paying me a lot, I'm resigning.
No, I was making money out of on the freelance work
Yes, yeah.
than the employment.
Okay,
Because a lot of clients sort of saw this person who shoots like an advertising photographer,
Yeah.
you know,
that's
high-end
standard,
photography.
yes, yeah.
That is not what they used to. So I would have MTN up to today still my client through that. I mean, even when it was formed in 1990, I was there. But I had clients that paid me a retainer, you know, and I could do their work. So I
Yes,
felt
yeah.
there's no need for me to work. So I could still freelance for some publications, but I'll open a business. I opened my first business 1998.
Yes, yeah. So we always ask our guests about their definition of success. So what's yours?
My definition of success is that I've adhered to the call of my purpose or something that I do at any given time with a passion, you know, with I mean, I can never complain about what I do. It's just, and even if you studied photography, because mine is self-taught, even if you study it, you know, you'll do it a certain way. For me, I was able to take my children to school up to university. I could clothe myself. I could take care of my siblings. Everything that I could do, I did it through photography. So the business part of it was one that really opened up my eye because I always felt as an artist more than as a commercial photographer.
Yes.
But it gave me both roles. I could still express myself as an artist and I can still do commercial work.
Creatively. And so being a creative, is it difficult running a business?
Yeah, it is.
Are you business-minded?
I'm not. I struggle to be in that category of business because I'm an artist, you know, and it is something that I've done all my life.
Yeah.
You know.
Have you ever had agents maybe represent
No, I've
you?
never had an agent. I've never had a manager.
Yeah.
I could have people that work in my office, maybe an administrator. That's about it. But I'd never elevate it in such a way. Although now it runs as a full-on business. It's called African Skies Media.
Yes.
But for me personally, I would rather have somebody run the business part of it and then just give me instructions on what to do. But I still love to express myself because I give myself assignments
Yes.
rather than taking assignment from clients. You know, so I will go on a trip to Namibia for the whole month and cover whatever I cover and then bring it back. Now that I do jazz, I've so sink into it. And I do a lot of it. And I travel overseas, follow jazz everywhere.
So what was it about jazz that, I mean, obviously it's what you've become famous for now. And even your latest book, it's capturing some really amazing jazz moments of artists, both local and international artists. So what was it about the jazz medium that resonated with you?
You know, one of the reasons is that in my photography, my style of work, I really don't like to pose people. I don't like to give instructions to do certain things. I love to look, observe, and then capture a particular moment. So jazz allows me to do that.
Yeah.
Because when you go to a club or a jazz venue, you don't find perfect lighting. Your space is small, it's crowded. Sometimes the space is not. So I find myself in those positions where I can now exceed my expectations, and I can search something that is in me, and I produce those images from that. Although some venues you find in a bigger area, lighting is good and all of that, but that's not my niche. My niche is awkward spaces, low light, or sometimes people say it's a terrible light, you know. So I love that.
That challenges you.
Yeah.
And obviously you've become famous for your black and white photographs. And the name of your book is Rhythm in Black and White.
Rhythm in Black and White.
But what I find interesting is that the image on the cover is the one that won you.
Color.
I'm coming there. that won you the top prize in the World Jazz Photo.
Yes.
And it's color.
Yes.
Tell me about that. So it is, I mean, not your usual.
And it's only one in color.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is. And hence I was saying I follow my spirituality or my calling.
Yeah.
I don't defy certain things that happened, you know. So if I was somebody else, I probably would have converted it to black and white. But the way I shot it, the story of if I can just briefly tell you, I drove to KZN to also not an assignment, just out of my own will. I said, I'm just going to check what's going on in KZN. It was KZN International Jazz Festival on that day.
Okay.
So I get there, everything is okay. You know, people are there, familiar faces, you know, we all greet each other, you know, we all love jazz. We're looking forward to the music. But when the time came that music started, things were just not working well. Sound was not okay. People were still doing sound check. The lighting was just horrible. I think if I'm not wrong, we started around 10 o'clock at night.
Wow.
Something that was supposed to start much earlier. Even when we started, still the guys were busy on a desk trying to get sound right. But hence I'm saying, when you find yourself in a place like that, the artistry in you comes out. Now, when it came for Ntutuzo to play, he was a little bit upset about the way things were, you know, because he's a host, you know.
Of course, yeah.
We had international artists there, like your Richard Boners of this world. So he had to like keep everybody calm. But he was playing, and for the first time that I saw him in white clothes, you know, on a grand piano, and then he had this unique, iconic red head of his. So I look at the contrast of this red and this white clothes, and that grand piano, wooden grand piano. And the light was just terrible because in the front stage, there was just this flood of light going towards him. And you couldn't, even if you Photoshop it or you fix the color, there was just too much. And he was dressed in white clothes. So I decided to go backstage. So when you go backstage, now the light that is hitting your subject, it creates a rim light around him.
Yes.
And the exposure on this end of the light is less, so I could control it. So I waited for that one moment, you know, and I was already myself upset about a whole lot of things. And it was early hours of the morning, very early hours of the morning. I took few frames, you know, guys, my colleagues that were with me there, Buma Msingwe, Njangase, Bosbunga Kacheni, were like, people have given up on the show. But I saw a shot that nobody else did. There were many of us there, other photographers. So when I went behind the curtains backstage, I framed it. And then he went on his own spiritual search. He plays like Abdullah Ibrahim. Before he plays, he almost like meditating. And it takes time, and he had a soft note, and he builds it up. And somehow I found myself in tune with what he was doing.
Yeah.
And 2-3 frames of that, I got back, I told my colleagues, and I said, I'm driving back to Joburg. I'm
I
done.
got what I came for.
Yeah, I think for me to stay here, it doesn't do justice for me. I think I'm okay. So I got back to my car and I drove. Although I had a hotel booked for myself, but I didn't feel the need to go sleep 2 hours.
So you
get
just
up.
left in the early hours?
I
drove
just
back.
left.
Wow.
I got into my car and I left. When I got home, I had arranged because this World Jazz Photo is an annual event.
Yes.
So I had made a selection of images that I was going to submit, but you only can submit one.
One, yes, yeah.
So, and I looked through them and I said, I think this one is talking to me. The way it was made and the way it appears to be, it is talking to me.
Yeah.
So that's the only image that I'm going to submit. So I edited it a little bit, fixed the diagram, and I sent it out. That was it.
And how did it feel? Because you had entered before, and
Yes.
we're
And I was in the top 30.
In the top 30,
Yeah.
but didn't make it to the top
Yeah.
3.
Yeah.
And then the second time you entered,
Yeah.
were you hoping for the top spot?
I wasn't.
Okay.
Because
You were happy with the top 30?
I was happy with the top 30 because this is people from all over the world.
Yes.
These are the masters. These are the people that they look at the image, they will tell you how it was exposed, how, all of that.
Yeah.
So there's no other level of photography beyond that because they are a specialist.
Yes.
So top 30 for me I was very happy about that. Going second time around was like, okay, it's all right. Whatever happens will happen. But even when they call me, they say, we can't tell you which position, but you're on a top 3. It could be first, could be second, could be third.
Yes.
But you are there, so you have to come down. So I took my partner, Boniswa, and I said, well, I need someone to, if things
To
don't
hold
work
your
well.
hand.
And she
Yes.
agreed, and she
Yeah.
was busy with her studies and all of that. He says, well, let's go. We went to Prague. We spent about a week there. We came back with a prize.
Okay, so it's time for our Fire 5, which are quick fire questions.
Okay.
Don't spend too much time thinking about this.
Oh, really?
So,
Okay.
yeah. So, first question is, if you were forced to wear a T-shirt with a single word on it for a year, which word would you choose and why?
Not what I'm wearing, not what I'm wearing, but probably the T-shirt the wording that I'll put will be expressions.
Expressions. Okay. All right. And do you snore?
Not as far as I know.
All right. So finish this phrase.
Yeah.
The way to my heart is?
Is through creativity.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And how would you rate your karaoke skills on a scale of 1 to a Judith Sipuma?
Hey, Judith Puma was my ex-wife. Okay. I'll probably be 1. Judith 10.
Judith said you'd be 1. Okay. If there was a hair in your soup, not that you have any, would you send it back at the restaurant?
Yes, I will, definitely.
So you don't keep quiet and...
No, I don't.
So one of those guys that complain.
What you see is what you get. If I like you, I like you. If there's nothing, there's nothing there.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Sounds good. And so you've taken a number of your exhibitions around the country.
And the world.
And around the world.
Yes.
And it's been mainly your photographs. And you've told me that you have a collection of how many cameras?
My cameras, if I count all my cameras, including the collectibles,
Yes.
just over 200.
200.
Yeah.
So that's enough to have a whole, actually even a whole museum.
Yes, I could. I'm striving for that, to have a museum. I mean, with images, with my vinyls, and old recordings. Yeah, they could be in a museum. Yeah.
So your own, I'm just thinking, recently I was in Lagos, I went to Fela Kuti,
Wow.
his house, which was converted to a museum.
To a museum, yes.
So maybe your house, maybe put it in your will.
It'd probably be, it's going that direction because my home is almost like a gallery.
Yeah.
It's almost like an art space, like this place here. You find old cameras, old cars,
Yes.
vinyls, furniture. I'm just that old soul that I love collecting things.
So besides your cameras, anything else you collect?
Vinyls,
Uh-huh.
jazz vinyls.
The jazz vinyls. And your very first one, do you remember?
The
What was
very
your
first
first
vinyl
vinyl
that I
you bought?
owned was by Winston Mankunkungozi, Yakalinkomo. And that image was shot by someone that I looked up to very much, and I ended up teaching at his school, Alf Kumalo.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ah, okay. Sounds good, sounds good. And then as we wrap up, I mean, what advice would you give to a young star who may not necessarily be even exploring photography, but some creative field and struggling to decide what are the next steps in their journey, to make it in life?
I think if I take it from me or my point of view, it'll always be something that you do without effort. Something that you do without being asked to do. And we all of us have that one aspect of it. It's just that we never looked into it. I mean, as much as it could be sports, and sometimes somebody will tell you everybody can play sports, but not all of us can play in Europe or in those big leagues. So give yourself time to look around you, and especially things that you did well when you're growing up,
And why is it that we often look down on those things and we never think that is something that we can
yes.
create a life out of?
Yes. We follow what we study. And there's nothing wrong with that. We can't all be the same. People always follow what they studied and then they stick on that. And forgetting that they do have a true talent that is embedded in them, but it was never explored.
Yes, yeah.
And your calling is around you. It's just that you need to give yourself time and find it. Because you
Yes.
find that sometimes you do things as a hobby. But if you give it enough time, you see that it's not just a hobby. It will take you further than that.
Maybe it's your calling.
Maybe it's your calling. Yeah.
And just one of the last questions I want to ask you. I mean, you came from a very difficult situation. As you said, you're practically an orphan and, went through abuse and all of that. And initially as a young man, you had anger issues.
Oh, seriously.
And how did you heal? But you seem like an easygoing guy now.
I'm still healing.
Yeah.
For my own good, I was dangerous for that. Growing up in Soweto, and in that time, you could do two things. It's either you play soccer or you're a thug. Or sometimes you could be at the youth club.
Yes.
If you're not in one of these, what do you do? So for me, was because I was under this, I was captured, so to say. I had a chain on my feet that I'm not able or I'm not allowed to do certain things. And my defiance on that was that I will run away, And as soon as I ran away from that home, I think it was around 1987 or 88 when I ran away. And nobody came looking for me.
Yes.
Or where's Siphiwe? Or police report or missing person. They just left me. So I went and I found my own path. Finding my path was my camera.
Yes.
And it gave me so many opportunities that I've ended up encountering. Even people that I used to read about, your Peter Magubanes of this world, Jagen Sugarberg, David Goldblatt.
Yes.
And I sort of adopted them to be people that will mold me. Because obviously I did not have the access to go and study that I wanted to do, photography.
Yes.
So photography me was I worked with legends, people like specifically Moffat Zungu. He's late now, he was a darkroom technician at
Yes.
Sowetan. Mike Mzileni. And these are people that took off their time and say, let's help this young man to develop yourself. I suppose I can say the same thing about people that finding themselves, finding their niche. You just listen to yourself, listen to your thoughts and process them, because then they will guide you to what you are ought to do.
So you'd say what the camera also helped you to heal?
Oh, yeah, and it helped me to heal in many ways. I mean, up to this day, and that's what I'm saying. I end up collecting the camera. It's not like I worship it, but it's part of me, And then with the ridiculous money that I own, the camera that I'm carrying now, it's a Rolleiflex.
Yes.
It's a master's camera. You have to be a master to operate and know that camera. So for me, it's like, this is where my path is going. And it heals me.
Yeah.
Whenever I have my camera, I'm in a good spirit. I could find a nice, small little subject that you don't consider as a good subject. But the way I photograph it, and when I get home, I develop that film and I print it. I look at it, it heals me, you know. So that's my, and that's why I never got into trouble. I mean, I did join the comrades as I was growing up, street committees and all of
Yes,
those
yeah.
things. But I always had time for my camera.
And it kept you out of trouble.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, thank you very much for that, Siphiwe. It was a pleasure getting to know you a little bit better
Thank you.
and your journey to success. And I believe you've achieved that success.
I believe I am. Out of, you know, if you look at my situation, this is a dream come true for me. I couldn't have asked for better than what I have, you know, from a street child, street kid, rotten with sores all over my body, not attending school. This is a dream for me.
I like that. Let's keep it on that dream note.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
If you've enjoyed the conversation with Siphiwe Mhlambi, please comment, like, and don't forget to share with your friends and family. I'm sure his story is going to inspire people and hopefully another generation of photographers.